He called me selfish. Unlike my sister, what I said next left everyone in tears. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt heavy, thick with unspoken words and resentment. My hands trembled, my throat tightened. My heart raced like it was trying to escape, beating a frantic rhythm against my chest. The living room was packed. Family gathered, faces blurred together in a cacophony of expectations and whispers. I could see their eyes darting back and forth, questions folded into worry. But none puzzled me more than my brother's. His gaze burned with an accusation, cutting deeper than any knife. "You're just selfish," he spat, the words wrapping around my heart like a snake. My sister, perfect and sweet, sat beside him as the golden child. I felt the weight of the world in that moment. Silence clung to the walls, each breath heavy with tension. I wanted to scream. Instead, I inhaled sharply, glanced around at the multitude of faces, stunned into a tableau of shock and confusion. Then something broke loose inside me. I didn't plan it. My voice erupted, a firecracker in the quiet room. "Selfish? You think I'm selfish? You don't know the half of it." My words danced like flames, igniting emotions that had been smoldering beneath the surface. Questions buzzed in the air as my family leaned in. Caught in the web of my revelation, I could feel it, a rush of adrenaline spilling from my lips. I spoke of nights I spent awake, worrying about Mom's fading smile. I painted pictures of sweat and tears, the sacrifices made not for praise but from love. I recounted the secrets I held, deep burdens weighing me down. My hands trembled as I revealed my truth, the vulnerability spilling over like a waterfall, washing away their judgments, even if only for a moment. Gasps filled the room. Eyes widened. I looked from my brother to my sister, catching a flicker of something. Understanding? Regret? I couldn't tell. All I knew was the room was suddenly electric, charged with a suspense that quivered in the air. I had set loose a flood, and it felt as if the ground beneath us could crack open at any moment. A weight lifted from my chest, but an even heavier one settled. In that raw, heated revelation, I knew I had danced too close to the edge, and yet a part of me thrived on the chaos. What would they say? Would it change their perceptions? I dared to look around, and I could see the ripple effect of shock coursing through the space. Their faces morphed from judgment to disbelief, and my heart raced anew. Then, just when I thought I'd found my voice, the lights flickered overhead, plunging us into darkness for a split second. It was as if the universe decided to intervene, leaving us suspended in that moment of uncertainty. My breath hitched. What did it mean? The only sound was the whirring of the electric hum struggling to return. My eyes darted to my brother. He looked different now, those walls he built starting to crack. I could feel the questions burning in the air, the unspoken thoughts weighing heavier than before. And then, a voice broke through the silence, not mine, but a whisper from the shadows, sending a chill down my spine. "You really think that's all there is to it?" Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. My heart pounded in the silence that lingered after the voice echoed through the room. The familiarity of that tone sent shivers down my spine. It belonged to our estranged cousin Amelia, whose presence had been little more than a ghost in our family gatherings for years. I had always admired her fierce independence, yet beneath the surface, the schism between our families had widened too much for her to cross. Emerging from the shadows, she stepped forward, her expression as intense as ever. "You're not selfish," she declared, her voice steady and clear. "You're human. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel." Looking at her now, I felt an unexpected sense of solidarity. Suddenly, her cultural rebellion and defiance against the expectations we had both faced didn't seem so distant. It was as if she was reminding me of the strength I had buried beneath layers of obligation and guilt. But the echoes of disbelief quickly drowned out any semblance of warmth that might have seeped into the room. "Amelia, you don't understand," my sister interjected, her voice trembling with an urgency that revealed her own insecurity. It's not just about that. We all have our burdens. We've worked hard to keep this family together. You left. You chose not to be a part of us. No, I chose to be myself, Amelia shot back, her eyes glistening with unspent tears. The tension was palpable, a twisted dance of conflicting desires. But maybe it's time we all stop pretending that everything is perfect. 'Cause it's not, and it's about time you admitted it. Watching the intense exchange between them, I felt trapped in a surreal fever dream, one that pulled at the seams of a reality I had tried desperately to preserve. Our family's fractures now lay bare, threatening to swallow us whole. A part of me felt the urge to rescue my sister, to quell the discourse and keep the peace, but I also sensed the urgency of Amelia's words cutting through years of denial. And then, like a rogue wave crashing into the shore, my brother spoke, his voice breaking the tension with newfound vulnerability. What do you want from us, Amelia? What do you really want? His question hung in the air, revealing the cracks behind his bravado. I had never seen him like this, stripped of armor and bravely bare before the family he had tried so hard to shield. With that question, the dam broke. I want you to stop hiding from each other. She moved closer, taking my brother's hand in hers, a tangible connection in the chaos. I want you to confront what's been festering. You think you're protecting yourselves or this family, but you're just feeding the poison. At that moment, tears blurred my vision as my heart crashed down like waves against a jagged cliff. Amelia was right. I had spent too long shrouded in pretense, pushing my emotions aside in an attempt to maintain a facade of unity. I felt like a stranger to my own family, an outcast desperately seeking acceptance yet tearing myself apart to gain it. The room slowly spun back to me, faces of my family shifting between anger, sorrow, and something else? A spark of understanding? Was it possible that beneath the layers of hurt, they all yearned to connect again? My chest tightened with longing, yet fear stifled my hope. I opened my mouth to speak, ready to embrace this moment of revelation, this reckless abandon of family loyalty to confront the real truths we buried. But my voice failed me. Just then, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the storm that had brewed moments before. I scanned the faces around me, a constellation of pain and heartache. And amidst them, I caught a glimpse of my mother tucked away in the corner, her gaze distant, lost somewhere between our past and present. Mom, I whispered, my chest tightening with a rush of emotion. Are you okay? She slowly met my eyes, fragmented memories dancing in the depths of her gaze. I didn't know how much you all were struggling, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. And in that moment, pieces began to shift once again, the fragile walls we had erected trembling under the weight of our revelations. I thought I was protecting you, she said, tears brimming in the corners of her eyes, but perhaps I was only shielding myself. It struck me like a bolt of lightning as realization washed over me. The door was open. Our family was teetering on the brink of something beautiful yet terrifying. My heart surged with the hope of connection, but alongside it was the agonizing dread of what we might uncover in each other. And as if the universe conspired against us, Amelia turned abruptly towards the door, her expression suddenly stormy. I can't be here for this, she said, her voice heavy with a mixture of frustration and determination. You all need to fight through this yourselves. And with that, she exited the room, leaving a tense void in her wake. Amelia! I called after her, my voice breaking as she vanished, the echo of her departure amplifying the unresolved emotions that hung thick in the air. The cliffhanger of our fragile moment now threatened to unleash a cascade of truths that none of us were fully prepared to face. What would it mean for our family? What more truths would emerge from this fracture? All I could do was stand there, grieving the weight of our unsaid words as I clutched the fragile hope of connection, fearing it might shatter irreparably with the next breath. Seconds felt like hours as I stood in the aftermath of Amelia's departure, a specter of her bold conviction lingering in the air like smoke from an extinguished candle. The burden of silence pressed down, heavy and suffocating, punctuated only by shallow breaths and the muffled sound of shoes scuffing against the floor as my family churned with unexpressed sentiments. My gaze flitted from my brother's stunned expression to my sister, whose unyielding resolve appeared to splinter under the weight of vulnerability. We had been on a path so meticulously paved by expectations, yet here we were lost at the crossroads, questions echoing louder than any answers we could muster. I don't want to do this, my sister whispered, her eyes darting to my mother, who was no longer hiding in the shadows but standing as a relic of our family's past, facing the raw truth with a fragility that made my heart ache. I can't face what's broken. It's too painful. Painful, yes, but it's also necessary, I finally managed to say, my voice shaking as if the very act of speaking could crumble the walls we had so carefully built. We've all been walking on eggshells, pretending that the cracks in our family can remain hidden forever. And for what? To keep up appearances? To shield ourselves from the chaos we've allowed ourselves to create? Well, I don't want to be part of the chaos, she cried, rising from her chair, pushing it back forcefully. The chair screeched against the floor like nails on a chalkboard, amplifying the storm inside her. The vulnerability gave way to frustration, and I felt the stirrings of my own temper igniting in response. Then what do you want? I challenged, stepping closer, my heart pounding with both fear and a strange exhilaration. Is it that you want everything to remain perfect? Because it isn't. It hasn't been for years. And we're suffocating here. I could feel my family drawing together, an unspoken audience, but all I could focus on was Kathleen's increasingly distressed expression. Her defenses crumbled, and as tears spilled down her cheeks, I found the crevices in my heart widening even more, aching to reach out, to pull her back from the precipice of despair. I just want us to be happy, she murmured, her voice cracking. I don't want to feel like this. As my sister broke down, all I could think was how the weight of unshared feelings and expectations was thrumming between us, a tether that had drawn tighter with every year of silence. My brother, witnessing her unraveling, rose from his seat. Then let us stop pretending, he proclaimed, cutting through the tension like a knife. We can feel together, we can hurt together. But we have to do it as a family. His words ignited something in the room, an unexpected wave of unity that felt electric, yet terrifying. Could we actually bridge this canyon of hurt? My pulse raced at the prospect, a prayer hanging in the air as I watched the three of us stand anchored in conflicted emotions. Let us try, okay? I whispered, the tremor in my voice revealing my own hesitance. Let us try to talk, to share what we're feeling. All of it. Just like Amelia said. But that was the moment everything fractured anew. I can't, Kathleen exclaimed, shaking her head fiercely, her blush of shame twisting into anger once again. You don't understand what I've been carrying. You don't understand what it's like to be the one holding everyone together, while being torn apart on the inside. My mother, still fragile, stepped toward Kathleen, her eyes pleading. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I've made this worse for all of you. I never wanted to push you into this role. I thought no. Kathleen interrupted, struggling to catch her breath. You thought shielding us from pain would protect us, but all you did was make it worse. I can't keep being the glue while you all fall apart. It isn't fair. Her words echoed with the weight of years spent buckling under the strain of expectations. And as the heat of that truth settled, I felt the burning blush of shame rise within myself as well. Each hurt we bottled up was now a festering wound threatening to spill over. Maybe we need help, I suggested, stumbling over the import of what I was saying. The thought felt daunting yet powerful. If we're this broken, we shouldn't face it alone. We can get through this if we let the fissures expose what's beneath. Kathleen's expression shifted, a glimmer of acknowledgement pushing through her pain. What do you mean help? She whispered, uncertainty mingling with the grief in her voice. I mean therapy, or the words hung heavy in the air. The uncharted territory we would have to traverse, transforming the idea into both hope and dread, an open door edged with fear. We could communicate better, explore these feelings out loud, instead of letting them bury us. The room held an unbearable stillness, my family's uncertainty tangled with the prospect of healing. But just as hope began to pulse again, filling the empty spaces with possibility, we were interrupted by the sudden sound of glass shattering from the kitchen. My heart raced as I turned instinctively to the source of the noise. What was that? I called out, the gravity of our moment suspended in the air as dread twisted my stomach. The eerie quiet that followed felt like the calm before a storm, and I vaguely heard the remnants of a voice call out from the kitchen, muffled and frantic. Mom! Stay here! The sound of my brother racing toward the kitchen sent a jolt through me, and I followed, panic clawing at my insides. And just like that, the fragile moment we had shared turned threatening, a tempest of emotions swirling around us again, raw and unresolved. What had birthed an opportunity for healing now felt like it could shatter under the weight of new uncertainty. As I crossed into that threshold, I gasped at the sight before me. My mother, face down on the floor, glass shards glittering like stars around her. The weight of all we hadn't said crashed down, an unspoken terror reverberating in the air. What had we left unaddressed that would haunt us forever? And would we fall apart again before we could come together? The kitchen was a scene from a nightmare, a tableau of broken glass and stillness, punctuated only by the muted echoes of my family's frantic whispers. As I knelt beside my mother, the scattered shards reflecting a multitude of emotions: fear, regret, and a dawning realization of our brokenness, I struggled to collect my racing thoughts. I could barely process the impact of her collapse when the weight of my sister's gaze bored into me. "Is she okay?" Kathleen's voice tremored, laden with a mix of concern and guilt, as though we all somehow shared the responsibility for this moment. I reached out to turn my mother over gently. Her face was pale, but her eyes fluttered open. Relief washed over me like a cool breeze slicing through a heat wave. "Mom." The word barely escaped my lips, but it brought with it an urgency. "Can you hear me?" "FL just tripped," she murmured weakly, her voice barely a whisper. "It's nothing really," but I could hear the crack in her tone, a fragile facade crumbling away. "No, this isn't nothing," I insisted, glancing at my brother who was now hovering closest to our mother, desperately trying to gather her strength with gentle touches. "Why didn't you call for us sooner?" My own voice caught in my throat, frustration intertwining with the panic. "Didn't he want to bother anyone?" she replied, a hint of defiance laced with vulnerability flickering behind her eyes. "I thought I could handle it, and that's exactly the problem," I retorted, knowing fully well my words could either shatter or mend what was left of this moment. "You always think you can handle things alone. But you're not alone. You never have been." A silence enveloped us, thick with the weight of revelations hanging just out of reach. My mother's lip quivered slightly as she blinked up at us. "I didn't want to burden you the way I have," she murmured, voice barely audible over the tension suffocating the air. "Mom, don't you see? The more we try to handle things alone, the more burdened we become," my brother said, his voice rising slightly as if demanding she acknowledge the truth we had all been too afraid to say. "This is exactly why we're falling apart." I looked at Kathleen, whose expression split between terror and newfound resolve. The untouchable moments we had shielded from each other were flaring up like angry flames, each unspoken sentiment threatening to leap out with the force of a wildfire. "Why didn't you let us in, Mom?" Kathleen implored, her tears flowing freely now. "I hate that you felt like you had to protect us from everything. You don't realize how much we want to be part of your life, to support you together." It's hard," Mom's voice cracked as she attempted to speak through the barrage of emotions. "I wanted to give you both strength. But I realize now that strength comes from showing our weakness, from sharing the burden." Just as I felt a thread of connection weaving through us, fragile and trembling and unexpected, monstrous retort exploded from behind me. "You're all being selfish." Our brother's voice bolted through the air, harsh and biting, as he faced us with a storm brewing in his gaze. "You want to talk about feelings and healing, but you all want to pick at each other's wounds instead of seeing what really matters." His words struck like thunder, reverberating through the already tenuous atmosphere. I turned to him, confusion spiraling into hurt. "What do you mean? Stop pretending like we should fix everything. Maybe some of us have scars we're not ready to share." His face was taut with emotion, sharp and unyielding. "You think it's easy for me to watch Mom suffer while you two indulge in your self-pity? What? That's not what this is about, Ryan." I shot back, the anger rising within me as his accusation twisted the knife deeper. "You're missing the point of why we have to talk things out. Maybe you don't get it," he snapped, voice quaking with frustration. "Not everyone can just unravel their feelings because it's trendy or something." But Kathleen moved closer, her determination palpable. "It's not about being trendy. It's about being real. And right now the real is that we're all scared, including you." For a moment the hostility softened. I observed Ryan's tears trying to break free, betraying him despite his bravado. But rather than revealing this vulnerability, he turned away, frustration mingling with shame as he held onto the surfacing grief. "Enough!" I shouted, the weight of everything crashing down, forcing us all against the tide. We can't keep punishing each other for the pain we are all feeling. I for one am done navigating this heartbreak alone. Stop acting like you know how we all feel. He bellowed back, the words slicing through me. You're not the one carrying everyone else's baggage while searching for your own happiness. And just as those words settled over us like a dark cloud, my mother managed to sit up, her gaze shifting between us. Please, her voice trembled. Don't let anger steal this moment away from us. But the floodgates had opened. The emotional torrent surged, and the fracture lines across our family seemed to deepen. The air electric with unresolved tensions. I reached for my mother's hand, squeezing it tightly, wanting her warmth and strength to anchor me in that storm. It was all unraveling right before us, and I could sense we were standing at the precipice of something monumental. Then the doorbell rang, jarring us all back to our immediate reality, a stark interruption of our spiraling emotions. Who could that be? Kathleen breathed out, fear creeping back into her voice. I unlocked the door, heart racing anew. And what lay beyond that threshold felt like an unpredictable tide. The last thing I expected stood before me. Tall and weary Amelia. Her face ashen and lined with an urgency that sent my heart plummeting into an abyss of unanswered questions. I'm here, we need to talk. Her words ricocheted off the walls, rattling the already delicate cadence of our family's unspoken conversations. And as I stood there, half in shock, half in hope, the weight of everything yet unresolved loomed larger than ever, pulling us all toward the edge of an unpredictable abyss. The kitchen remained a whirlwind of raw emotions, and as Amelia stood there in the doorway, it felt as if time paused, drawing out the breath of that moment into a long, tense silence. Her visage struck me like a bolt from the blue, an unexpected vacancy of hope woven with urgency. I glanced back at my family, each of us reflecting a storm hidden beneath the surface. Amelia? I stammered, wavering between shock and a flicker of hope, yet hesitant to believe what she had to say. Why, what do we need to talk about? I stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter, but her presence only heightened the pressure building in the room. She shuffled in, her eyes darting around as if searching for something concrete amidst the chaos of emotions. I know things have been tough, and I come to share something important. Her voice trembled, an echo of the fragility that danced through our shared space. My heart raced. Would this finally be the lifeline we needed to mend our fraying ties? The air felt thick with potential as she set her gaze on my mother, who remained stooped on the floor, still trembling with the remnants of her collapse. Ms. Morgan, Amelia began softly, kneeling before my mother, I've been feeling the weight of everything going on too. It's hard to watch you struggle alone. My mother blinked slowly, her face etched with weariness but illuminating a flicker of surprise at Amelia's sudden appearance. You care, she whispered, a breath barely escaping her lips. Of course I care. You meant so much to all of us. Because Amelia's voice cracked, emotion spilling forth like a tide. Because I don't want any of us to lose someone we love before we've had a chance to truly say what we feel. A silence enveloped us again, as her words began to intersect with the fear that had tautly gripped the air, a fear of loss, of things left unsaid, and of the bitter cost of unresolved conflict. Amelia, I urged, stepping closer. What is it you're trying to say? My heart clamored now, pushing me to reach out, to not let this moment slip away without grasping the truth she came to unveil. She hesitated but took a deep breath, gathering her courage as her gaze shifted to me now. There's something, I found something that could change everything. She inhaled shakily. Your father, he is not who you think he is. The words fell like stones into an already tumultuous sea, creating ripples of confusion and dread that rippled through our family. I felt a rush of fear grip my heart, a fear of the past I had tried so desperately to understand, intertwined with the poison of old secrets. What do you mean? His history, it's more complicated. There are things he has never spoken about, things he has tried to keep from you all, to protect you from the truth. Amelia's voice trembled with the weight of revelation. But I think it's time you knew. How do you know? Kathleen's voice broke through, shards of suspicion mingling with a desperate need for understanding. I overheard him speaking with someone, a stranger, someone who knew him well. They talked about his past and it didn't align with the man you know. Each word was meticulously chosen, intentionally exposing the cracks in the pedestal upon which we had placed our father. No, Ryan growled, anger boiling over as he lurched forward. This isn't the time for this. We're in the middle of something important. His voice sharpened the air, the electric tension once again sparking brightly. Maybe this is the most important time, Amelia countered, unwavering as she rose to meet his intensity. If we're going to heal, we can't allow the secrets to fester any longer. Your father has been hiding from you, hiding things that will impact how you see him, how you see yourselves. Every breath felt like a staccato drumbeat echoing throughout the kitchen, colliding against the silence, thickening the atmosphere. I could feel the seismic shift in my family. The moments of heated honesty had led us to an emotional precipice, and this devastating piece of news sparked revelations we were unprepared to face. Enough, my mother murmured, her voice breaking through the chaos like glass hitting the ground. If this is true, we need to confront it together. Not alone, she added, reaching for my hand and Kathleen's. In that fragile moment we all gripped each other, looking to each other for the strength we desperately needed to weather this storm. But as I scanned the room, assessing the tension threaded through our shared gaze, I noticed Ryan turned away, fists clenched and body trembling as he fought to unravel the spiraling emotions. Maybe we shouldn't have waited so long, he said quietly, the vulnerability creeping into his voice, cracking through the facade he desperately held aloft. And as that ray of honesty illuminated the gloom, Amelia stepped back, her presence momentarily muted in the face of our family's unraveling. Did we really want to uncover the truths our father had hidden from us? But in the midst of the unraveling, I felt something shift deep within my heart, a tangible thread of connection woven between Kathleen, Ryan, my mother, and Amelia. In that moment, a pulse of apprehension and hope surged all around us, binding us together and threatening to tip the balance once more. Then, without warning, a loud crash erupted from outside, a sound so jarring it broke our reverie, making us all jump collectively. Our hearts raced and I exchanged panicked glances with my family, our fears reigniting as shadows danced ominously on the walls. What was that? Kathleen gasped, instinctively clutching my arm. I don't know, I breathed, a weight of dread anchoring my shoulders, as a ripple of cold ran down my spine. And just like that, we were thrust into yet another uncertainty. As I moved toward the window, something dark flashed just off the edge of my vision. I felt the tremor of dread creeping up my throat, and as I turned to face my family, I realized that the revelations of the past were only the beginning. What awaited us as we stepped into the chaos of our reality was yet to be defined. I cautiously peered through the window, heart hammering against my ribcage as I searched for the source of the chaos outside. In the hazy twilight, reality shifted like a mirage, and the shadows danced in the fading light. My family clustered behind me, their soft gasps igniting the air with tension. Then from the tranquility of dusk, a figure emerged, disheveled, masked by the evening gloom. My pulse quickened, recognizing the familiar silhouette. It was Timothy, our neighbor, known for his erratic behavior and explosive temper. He stumbled forward, arms flailing, and before I could register what came next, he smashed a nearby pot against the fence. What is he doing? Ryan hissed, eyes wide, a mixture of fear and anger swirling within him. Timothy, I shouted, the name echoing into the night with unintended urgency. What's wrong? He turned sharply, his wild eyes reflecting a tempest of emotions that mirrored our own. They didn't tell me, Timothy shouted, his voice hoarse with desperation. They kept it from me too. What is happening? My voice wavered as I exchanged frightened looks with my family. It was like peering into a storm we never saw coming. Timothy took a staggering step closer, breathless, as if his words were clawing their way out in a rush. Your father, he was never the man you thought. He was involved in things, dark things you can't even begin to understand. His words raced through the air like a poison, settling over us, thickening the atmosphere. My body instinctively recoiled at the mounting revelations, battling against an unseen current of dread. Stop! Ryan shouted, panic layering his voice. You don't know what you're talking about. The ferocity of his denial struck me as both brave and desperate, yet I could feel the fissures widening within all of us. But Timothy's gaze seemed unwavering, stealing with urgency. I was just too close to the fire, he gasped. He was leaving breadcrumbs that led me to things I never wanted to discover. Things I can't unsee. He is dangerous and you're all in danger too. The word danger hung in the air, suffocating the last tendrils of hope we had clung to. What do you mean? I felt myself step forward, propelled by a sense of dread that could no longer be contained. What are you talking about? I tried to warn him but he wouldn't listen. I saw things I shouldn't have. Men in dark suits, conversations whispered in hushed tones. I didn't know he was a part of it until it was too late. Timothy's fists clenched, eyes wild yet haunted. Enough. Amelia stepped forward, her voice grounding and filled with a fierce intensity. We need to stop this cycle of fear and anger. If your father has done something wrong, we can't turn from it. Her words hung defiantly in the air, igniting something within me, a flicker of blackened embers desperate for breath. Can we really confront him? Kathleen spoke softly, but the tremor in her voice conveyed the weight of the question. What if Timothy is right? Next to me, I felt Ryan's body go stiff, his indignation writhing like a wounded animal. That doesn't mean we have to listen to this lunatic. He's just trying to find a scapegoat for his own failures. Or maybe, Timothy countered, he's trying to protect you from the truth you really deserve to know. The melee of emotions churned in my chest. Each word slashed through me like serrated edges, a brutal reminder that no one had emerged unscathed from this familial storm. Fears I had kept bottled up surged forth, mingling with unresolved conflicts that threatened to drown us. What if our father really has been lying? My voice was a whisper, an invitation to the truth nobody wanted to acknowledge. Then we have to go to him. We have to face him, Amelia pressed earnestly. Suddenly, the kitchen door creaked open, a gap forming in our tightly woven circle as our mother stepped into the shadows. Is everything all right? Her voice was strained and laced with a worry that spiraled through the air. Not at all. You need to hear this, Ryan snapped, his frustration palpable. It's about Dad. Tensions rose, currents of fear and resentment gliding between us, but in that moment of chaos, flickers of connection surged beneath the heaviness, each of us clinging to the anchor of family, bound by our shared history. Yet right there, as Timothy's frantic revelations loomed over the kitchen like impending storms, my heart tightened even further. What if the truth stripped our father of the love we thought we knew? What if it shattered the fragile bond that barely held us together? Before I could wrestle with the aftermath of those thoughts, the door swung wide, and our father stood in the frame, a look of confusion and concern threading through his features. What's going on? His words were calm, yet something deep within those eyes sent shivers down my spine as he glanced at Timothy, whose expression mirrored the tempest we all carried within. The room held its breath, a moment suspended in the weight of impending revelations. Driven by a surge of raw emotion, I stepped forward. Dad, we need to talk, but the storm, it seemed, was just beginning. As my voice hung in the air, the gravity of the moment eclipsed the chaos outside. My father's eyes narrowed, searching for clarity in the mire of uncertainty, and I could sense the walls closing in around us. The kitchen, usually filled with warmth and laughter, felt like a confining cage where whispered fears and unresolved pain battled for dominance. My heart raced. Not just from fear of what was about to unfold, but from the weight of the burden I had kept hidden even from myself. We need to know what Timothy's talking about, I pressed, words tumbling out in an anxious rush. What have you been involved in? His expression flickered, a shadow of something too complex passing over his features. Involved in? What do you mean? He countered, but there was an undeniable tremor in his voice, hinting at a truth he had yet to fully grapple with. Timothy recoiled slightly, his voice strained yet unwavering. They don't understand the full story, and you've been lying to them. Keeping them in the dark, he spat, bitterness swirling like sweets atop a bitter drink. The tension radiating between all of us tightened, a palpable force urging us to both fight and flee. I've done what I needed to protect my family, my father said guardedly, his chest rising and falling with the weight of the words. A dismissal danced in his tone, but now it struck me as fragile rather than authoritative. Protect us from what? Ryan shouted, the last frayed threads of his anger unspooling with each word. From knowing the truth? Listen, you don't understand, my father began, but Timothy interjected. No, it's you who doesn't understand. Ignorance is not bliss, it's a trap, and you've controlled it for too long. The truth is like fire, whether you're ready or not. It always burns, Timothy said, passion igniting his voice, but his eyes betrayed the chaos raging within. And that moment, something inside me shifted. A clenched fist of courage unfurled, and I found the voice I had silenced in quiet corners of my mind. You called me selfish, Dad, I said, forcing him to meet my gaze. What happens if I am? We can't keep living this lie because we're afraid of the flames. The room fell silent, and you could almost hear the clock ticking, every second stretching out like eternity. My sisters exchanged bewildered glances, and there it was. Amelia's eyes glistened with unshed tears, a mixture of anger and heartbreak swirling like storm clouds above her. Kathleen, ever the peacekeeper, looked torn, her desire for harmony battling against the turbulent tides of revelation. It's not just about you. Or me. I pressed on, a fierce urgency lending strength to my trembling voice. What about us? We deserve to know the truth. At that moment the air grew heavy with unaddressed grievances, the years of secrets bonding my family in chains rather than love. I could see the flicker of fear in my father's eyes, the creeping realization that the house of cards he had built was trembling on the brink of collapse. This isn't easy, he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. And you may not like what you hear. Try us, Ryan snapped, his earlier anger morphing into the steely determination to uncover the truth. Enough, my mother interjected, stepping forward with a raw intensity that cut through the rising din. If there's something you've been hiding, Jason, please for once just be honest with us. And that was the moment when a new wave of vulnerability crashed over our family. My father's shoulders sagged, and for a breath-stealing instant, I saw the facade peeling away, revealing a man drawn between survival and the haunting echoes of his past. I never wanted you to see this, he whispered, acknowledging the specters that drifted just out of sight. The pain still haunting his eyes spoke volumes, secrets he had buried under the weight of responsibility, regrets that danced like fireflies around him. There are things I was involved with before you were born, things I thought I'd left behind. My blood turned cold as I managed to stutter. What things? Emotions surged around us, tremor of fear advancing like shadows over the shrinking light of our family bond. I was part of something that went far deeper than any of you could understand. It's connected to dark dealings, money, power, and loss, a world I thought I could escape. As he spoke, I felt it, a tether to a past we were all unaware of, a lineage colored with horrors we inherited unwittingly. Just as hope flickered toward the light, darkness surged, threatening to consume us, filling every space with an electric tension. Just because you wanted it to stay hidden doesn't mean it's okay. Amelia's tears poured freely now, a testament of sorrow we each carried in our own silent suffering. I thought I could protect you, he said again, almost pleading. I thought if I stayed away from it all, it would shield you. But I see now that may have been the greatest mistake of all. The rawness of those words clawed at my heart, each syllable a deeper cut against the fragile framework of love we built despite our disagreements. Bitterness swirled around us, accompanied by the tension crackling in the air. Would the love that united us fray under the weight of unconfessed sins? Protect us from what? The truth? Lies only bury us deeper. My voice sharpened now, feeling lighter yet heavier at the same time, with the burden of knowledge drifting like ash. You're wrong if you think the truth will save us, Ryan said fiercely, a flash of resentment streaking across his face. It might just tear us apart. I know, our father whispered, his gaze faltering. It was difficult to recognize him as my father, this man riddled with guilt and burdened by choices that had cast long shadows over our lives. But before I could respond, the house shuddered, and a sudden slam reverberated through our sanctuary, rattling the windows, one more complication tossed into turmoil. I turned instinctively toward the door, dread pooling in my stomach. It felt like the world beyond our walls held secrets sealed tighter than we could ever hope to unearth. What was that? Kathleen squeaked, her voice tinged with panic. And just as the air turned electric, with emotions running raw and verging on chaos, a new presence lurked outside, someone who was not just a ghost of our past, but a looming specter that pulled everything we just unraveled into question. Dad, there's someone at the door, I whispered, heart clenching as I stepped back, half expecting the ghosts of our family to follow in old footprints, each twist, each turn a new rabid shadow tearing apart the only life we thought we knew. But as I turned back, the expression on my father's face etched itself into my memory, resignation, sorrow, and fear all wrapped in one. And with the finality of the door creaking open, I couldn't shake the feeling that it held the weight of our lives on the precipice, ready to plunge into a darkness we might never escape. The door creaked open, revealing a figure silhouetted by the dim porch light, and a collective breath froze in our throats. I couldn't see the person clearly, but I recognized the bulwark of sorrow leaning against the frame, a face I had hoped to forget, a face I had never wanted to see again. Jason, came the voice, husky and filled with a regret that echoed the turmoil scattered like shards around our gathering. We need to talk. Panic surged within me, and I felt the blood rush from my head. My father's expression broke into something akin to fear, a crack in the armor he had worn for so long. Not now, please, he whispered. More to himself than to her. It was a woman I knew all too well, someone whose absence had shaped the contours of our family's suffering. It was Catherine, my father's estranged sister, the very heart of the secret that loomed over us like an impending storm. Her presence lit the match to an already volatile situation, the flames of which were unmistakably threatening to engulf us all. Catherine. Ryan's voice came out barely above a murmur, shock slicing through the inconsistencies of our family tale. What are you doing here? I couldn't stay away any longer, she said, stepping inside with an energy that commanded the room. She had always had that effect, a force of nature wholly unbridled by the careful shells we each hid behind. I heard there's been trouble. I had to warn you. My heart raced as tension pinned everyone in the room to their spots like marionettes, leaving fear and confusion to dictate the next course of events. Whatever news she carried seemed heavy, a grim harbinger threatening to reveal more than we were ready to accept. Warn us about what? My father asked, the mask of authority slipping as desperation licked at his words. It's about the family and the things that have been chasing us, Catherine said, her voice low but steady, like an anchor in a turbulent sea. You have to listen. There are shadows from the past that haven't been laid to rest. What do you mean? Kathleen's voice trembled, cracking under the strain of confusion. Her ever-present need for clarity now flooded with a storm of unanswered questions. Factions that were once silent are moving again, she continued. What Jason thinks he buried is rising once more. And they're looking for retribution, our family connected to an old debt that hasn't been settled. My father's face blanched, his expression morphing into one of stark disbelief. You don't understand. I left that life behind. I made sacrifices to shield them from it all. Sacrifices? Catherine echoed, her bitterness simmering, the weight of the family's history between them palpable. You didn't just shield them. You chained them to your past, knowing that one day it would catch up with you. Sparks flew as her words ignited a deeper anger within the room. I felt a warring sense of loyalty tug at me, the truth unconsciously drawing itself closer while darkness seemed ready to plunge us back into the depths we had strived to escape. You've always been selfish, Jason, she spat, pointing an accusing finger, her past grievances spilling raw and unfiltered. You thought you were saving them when you were only protecting yourself. You've left us to pick up the pieces. I watched the tears glisten in Amelia's eyes, our emotions now twisted into an inescapable knot. It was a waking nightmare. Every revelation felt like a tempest, one that threatened to fracture our family into disparate parts. Timothy's earlier accusation echoed in my mind, reverberating with a weight I hadn't fully acknowledged before. Truth held peril, but silence birthed anguish. Enough! I finally erupted, needing to regain control over the chaos spiraling out of reach. What are you talking about, Catherine? We deserve to know what almost killed our family once and for all. The truth? Oh, the truth will swallow you whole, she replied bitterly, throwing caution to the wind. They know you're here. They know everything. A chilling shiver raced down my spine, an unsettling uncertainty latching itself on my father's face, twisted in fear, the weight of Catherine's words crashing against his resolve. They? Who are they? He asked, voice wavering like a flickering candle. The trembling silence hung heavy again, broken only by the shuffling of my family's feet. It was as if we were standing on the edge of a precipice, one step away from a chasm of despair. Only Catherine seemed willing to peer into that. A deep breath escaped her, fissured with the weight of hard truths. The people you crossed, Jason, the ones whose paths you thought you could outrun. They're back for what they lost. They want you, and they're not coming for just your past. They're coming for your family. Panic exploded around me, readiness to retreat hanging like a specter in the air. Kathleen's hand grasped my arm, holding on like a lifeline, while Ryan's eyes darted around, finding no escape from what we had always been shielded from. Is it true then? I asked, the tremor in my voice revealing my fear. Are we in danger? I'll protect you, my father said suddenly, desperation clawing at his features. I'll fix this. We are already tangled in something beyond repair. Catherine countered. eyes glistening with unshed tears that mirrored our own. And fixing this? It may come at a heavier cost than you can comprehend. The indomitable hue of hope flickered away, swallowed by the approaching storm. And as I glanced at my family lost, frightened, and standing at the brink of the impending chaos, I knew we were grappling with something larger than ourselves. Just then, a muffled sound echoed from outside, a reminder that we were not alone, and that the precarious balance we had held onto so tightly was beginning to unravel. The darkness that loomed outside our door wasn't just a metaphor anymore. It was here, waiting, threatening to pull us into shadows from which we might never emerge. And as those realities intertwined, we were left standing on the edge of an irrevocable choice, whether to confront the demons that chased us or let them suffocate us in silence. The tension in the room turned palpable, thickening until it felt like we were all suffocating under the weight of inevitable doom. My father's forehead glistened with sweat, and his hands trembled slightly at his sides, an uncharacteristic display of vulnerability. "Catherine," he said, desperation lacing his voice, "you don't have to drag them back into this. I made my choices for their safety, and I still can protect them." The fierce glint in Catherine's eye mirrored the emotional storm brewing within me. "Protect them?" she admonished, stepping forward as if to challenge him physically. "You've built a wall around them, but you've also trapped them in a cage of deceit. The truth doesn't just vanish because you ignore it." With each word, I felt the fractures deepen within our family. Kathleen, usually the steadfast rock we all relied on, suddenly looked fragile, her gaze shifting between Jason and Catherine, her shock evident. Ryan shifted uneasily, his discomfort palpable, each sigh from him echoing throughout the now claustrophobic room. "Enough!" I shouted again, clenching my fists, letting my hidden anger spill forth. "You're both tearing this family apart. Right now we need to figure out what's coming at us, rather than rip open wounds that have already scarred us for years." Catherine's expression faltered, shock registering in her eyes as if my words had struck her with a force she hadn't expected. The brimming anger that emanated from my father swiftly dissipated in the face of my plea, replaced by something resembling shame. "I wanted to keep you safe," he murmured almost to himself, voice trembling. "I don't want safety that comes at the cost of truth," I said, my heart pounding as I felt the ground beneath us shift. "We deserve to know what we're facing. We deserve to confront whatever shadows loom in our past." A surge of hope rushed through me as I looked around the room, searching for the strength in my family. Could this be the moment we pivoted toward unity instead of disarray? I felt a lightness teasing at my heart, but it flickered, nearly snuffed out by the grave ramifications of Catherine's words. I turned back to her, demanding transparency. "Tell us everything. No more secrets." Catherine hesitated, locked in a moment with my father where words hung unspoken, tethered to years of hurt and betrayal. "They came for me, Jason," she finally spoke, her voice heavy with an unshackled weight. "Because of what we did. Our past isn't just ours anymore. It has legacies that haunt, ghosts that cling to us. And now they want revenge. Just yesterday I was approached by someone who knows everything." A gasp escaped Kathleen's lips. "What do you mean, approached? How do we know they won't come for us now?" Before Catherine could answer, the grating sound of gravel crunched beneath heavy footsteps outside, jolting us back to reality. I glanced at my father, whose face had drained of color. "Jason," he warned, urgency seeping through his voice as the door to our sanctuary shook slightly. Every instinct screamed for us to move, to flee, but we were paralyzed by confusion. The presence of the past, the echoes of our choices, felt like a palpable entity, stalking us undetected. As I moved slowly toward the nearest window, peering out into the inky dark, dread lapped at my heart. "I think someone is out there," I whispered, voice trembling despite my resolve. "We need to decide what to do now." Catherine's gaze shifted from me to my father, a silent challenge lingering within it. "You have to choose, Jason. The past or your family. You can't have it all. But make sure you know what you're willing to risk." At that moment the door slammed open, the wood splintering as if breaking through the brittle limits of our fragile emotional stability. A figure loomed in the doorway, cloaked in darkness, features shrouded in shadow, but I could feel the weight of recognition pressing down on my chest, and that split second the haunting familiarity of the figure ignited a dormant ball of recognition buried deep within me. The world around me blurred, time slowing, an overwhelming sense of dread pooling rigidly around my heart. "Catherine," the voice called out, devoid of emotion yet laced with something more sinister. "You didn't think you could escape your obligations forever, did you?" Panic exploded within me. I was no longer just a silent observer. I was caught in a web spun of blood and betrayal, the truth I so desperately sought hammering at the edges of my mind. Questions formed like storm clouds overhead. Had all our fears finally come to life? Would we stand together against the gathering darkness? Or would this be the moment that shattered us forever? And then, amid the chaos, a chilling realization pressed itself against my skull. Whoever this shadowy figure was, they weren't just coming for my father, they were here for all of us. The gnawing thought sank deep. Our family ties had just become chains, bound to a legacy of pain that had refused to stay buried. And the storm outside was but a whisper compared to the tempest brewing within. The chaos swirling around us felt like a tempest, wild and unrestrained. The figure in the doorway loomed larger than life, its voice cutting through our fragile bond like ice-piercing flesh. "You didn't think you could escape your obligations forever, did you?" With a swift flicker of recognition, I felt my insides wrench. My heart raced as the weight of reality that had been shadowed in whispers and trepidation closed in on me with an unforgiving grip. "Who are you?" I finally managed to ask, my voice a fragile whisper battling against the storm raging around us. The figure stepped further into the light, revealing a face etched with both familiarity and malice, someone I had only known through hushed stories and cold truths. It was our father's past come back to haunt him, to haunt us all. "I am part of a history you know nothing about," he said, the corners of his mouth twisting into a sardonic smile. "A history your father tried desperately to bury." The air thickened and clung to us, a grotesque reminder of years spent in denial, shrouded in silence. "Leave us." My father's voice rang out, strained and trembling, battling against the shadows of his past. "You're not welcome here." But the stranger only stepped forward, a dark force creeping into our shared space. Ignoring my father, the figure turned to us, eyes glinting with an unsettling fervor. "You all deserve to know the truth. Your father has built a pretty life on the deceit he's woven around your family." I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, anger flaring as emotions surged, shattered glass clattering to the floor of our hearts. "You deserve to know about the debts he has yet to pay." And there it was, the spell of silence shattered, reality colliding with the echoes of a past we had never asked to inherit. Fear bloomed like a wildflower desperate for sunlight. Our family was teetering at the edge of a canyon, a precipice of uncertainty between trust and betrayal. "Leave!" I shouted again, the refusal to accept my father's past echoing in my soul. "You don't belong here." I could feel my family draw closer together, each of us grasping onto the mere remnants of hope spun around the edges of the darkness. The figure leaned closer, a wraith rising from the depths of my father's secrets. "You think shouting will drive me away?" He chuckled, low and mocking, chance for fear morphing into resolve. "The truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deep you bury it. And it's about time the three of you learned what kind of man your father really is." My father's shoulders drooped with the weight of the confrontation, as if years of secrets had taken their toll in that very moment. "You don't know anything about me," he said, voice cracking like the very facade he'd built. "I left that life behind. I wanted to protect you." "Protect us?" Kathleen echoed incredulously, her voice trembling with a mixture of betrayal and confusion. "You've only hidden the truth, and it's time we face it. Face it together then." My mother's voice surged forth, breaking through the tension. "If we are to conquer what looms over us, we need to unite." In her amber gaze, I saw resolve meld with the tenderness I had known all my life. It was the spark we so desperately needed. Perhaps, just perhaps, this confrontation could lead us towards the truth we had long avoided. "Jason," Catherine's voice softened as she stepped forward, "you can't keep running. They'll come for your family just like they always have. You need to tell them everything. Only then can we fight." There were moments in life that hung like gossamer threads, teetering delicately towards forgiveness or despair. Pulling on that fragile thread, I looked to my father with everything at stake. He inhaled deeply, steeling himself against the years of turbulence swept mercilessly beneath the rug of our upbringing. "You deserve to hear it." His voice was raw, a torrent of vulnerability mixed with a painful acceptance. "I was involved in activities I thought were behind me, things that tied me to a world of deceit and danger, and in my selfishness I thought leaving would safeguard you. A profound silence consumed us. Everything hung in the air, the delicate balance between past mistakes and present truths vibrated with electricity, and each heart beat like a metronome, counting the seconds toward revelation. I was young, naive, he continued, tears forming as he struggled against the raw emotions. I thought I was strong enough to protect you from all of it, but what I didn't understand was that the lies would just feed the fear. Kathleen stepped closer, her heartache practically radiating from her soul. But what did you do? What debts do we carry? Her voice fell to a whisper, broken with a fear that wrapped around us like a suffocating blanket. I was part of a network, he finally admitted, rough and raspy, unmasking the ghosts that had haunted us with echoes of their crimes. Underground dealings, finances that skirted the law. I tried to wipe my hands clean, but the past never really goes away. They know I exist. The room held its breath, all pain threaded into our own lives coalescing in that shared heartbeat. I felt a staggering sense of weight, the burden of generations whispering through every corner of our home. How could you keep this from us? I asked, voice wavering as anger and love intertwined in the fabric of my heart. I thought I was protecting you from the truth that nearly tore our family apart, he admitted, anguish tearing through him like a riptide. But there's no protection in silence, only chains. A moment stretched long before time itself snapped back into focus. Then we have to confront this together, I said, grounding my voice with each word. It was an exhilarating rush, a small ember of hope igniting at the heart of our gathering. Whatever else comes, we fight it as family. The past has haunted us long enough. With those words propelling us forward, the figure in the doorway seemed to falter, uncertainty flickering across its features. Don't you understand? They'll come, relentless in their pursuit. The shadow warned, voice treacherous as tendrils of dread wrapped around us. You can't face them. Maybe we don't have to face them alone, I said firmly, glancing around at my family, their faces reflecting the determination I felt swelling inside me. Together we've already conquered so much. We have the strength within us to finish this and shatter the cycles of lies. As if invoking fate itself, the air stirred, and I could feel the warmth of our connections tightening like a bond forged in fire. Our family had shifted, broken yet resilient, fragile yet stronger than ever. Then we'll expose the darkness, Catherine said quietly, her tone filled with hope but tempered with caution. Together, you'll break free of the chains attached to your father's guilt. Let the light of truth pierce through the fortress he built around you. And so it was in that moment, a pact cementing in our shared understanding, a recognition that none of us would carry this burden alone. With renewed resolve, I felt the stars align before me, forging our fate through the anger and despair that had once gripped our hearts so tightly. The figure stepped back, its power visibly unraveling as uncertainty shifted through its gaze. You're making a grave mistake, it spat, fading into the shadows once more as we stood together, unwilling to cower in the face of our past. Maybe, I whispered, feeling a rush of defiance pulse through me. But we're finally ready to face it. In that moment we united as a family forged through vulnerability, intertwined in shared pain yet powerful in our acceptance of both past and present. And as we turned to face the darkness beyond, we stepped firmly into the light, the promise of a brighter tomorrow illuminating the path of our intertwined hearts. With each heartbeat echoing through the silence, I knew we were ready. There was no longer a void of words left unspoken or shadows of fear to conquer. We would navigate our way into the storm as one, together, undeterred by the challenges that still lay ahead. That in the depths of chaos, the truth had woven itself into a tapestry of strength, a strength born from forgiveness, love, and the tenacity to embrace our shared future. And as we began to take our steps towards a new dawn, boundless and unafraid, I turned to my family, knowing in my heart that we could endure anything as long as we faced it together. Together, I repeated softly, each word wrapping itself around us like an unbreakable chain that could only lead to light. And in that moment, tethered to fate, we rose, hands clasped tightly, navigating the deep uncharted waters before us with courage intertwined, stepping into our shared tomorrow unafraid, as echoes of our past merged into the symphony of our family.